Hi, good afternoon. I'm Wendy Morgan. I'm the founder and CEO of Shift. And I'm here today to talk to Dr. Mike Ackerman. And we're going to talk about his experience with taking our Understanding Belonging course recently with a cohort from The Ohio State University. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Do you mind giving us a quick introduction of who you
Well,
are and your role?
sure. I'm Mike Ackerman. I'm a nurse practitioner by trade, and I am a professor of clinical nursing at The Ohio State University College of Nursing. I'm also the director of our Master's in Healthcare Innovation program, as well as our Center for Healthcare Innovation and Leadership. And just over the last year, have gotten to do some really neat things with extended reality, including virtual reality, which is how we came to meet. I think it is the future. It's certainly, I don't think we'll ever replace, hands-on care or some of the great simulation we do with high fidelity simulators, but it's definitely the future. And we're just trying to figure out now where's the best place to put it in our curriculum.
And so, yeah, we'd love to talk to you a little bit about your experience with that. So, if there's a single word that you could use to describe that overall experience.
I'd say surprised.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, it really made me focus on things that I maybe hadn't focused on enough, and made me examine what are some of my blind spots. I was kind of surprised about some of those things when I went through some of the asynchronous learning and then in the VR. So I was a little surprised in a good way. I think it was effective. What was presented was effective. So yeah, but I was surprised.
Yeah. Can you think of an aha moment? So, when you think back to those different modules, was there a moment where you're like, oh, I had no idea this was a case, or that I did this, or something like that?
Well, I'll be real honest with you. When I started the course, I almost felt like I needed to defend myself
Hmm.
as a white male. I really sat back and kind of examined, like, why am I feeling this way? So it made me think about, well, what's the rest of the course going to be? Because
Hmm.
I don't want to go through the whole course feeling this way, like I have to defend myself. And I got to the values module,
Hmm.
and that hit home. The values was an extremely effective module. Yeah, I thought it was very, very effective.
So, with the values module, then looking at the values that we hold and how that can drive our actions and interactions with others, that had a lot of meaning for
Yeah,
you.
it did. And then also it just dawned on me. It was the girl roller skating,
Hmm.
and she falls, and there's a young guy sitting on a bench. And I think, as I recall, it's kind of like, boy, that guy's not even going to get up to help her.
Right. Hmm.
But then you see later that he's in a wheelchair, and
Right.
so part of the I teach crucial conversations, and part of crucial conversations is how do you master your stories,
Mm-hmm.
and these stories in our head and how they can influence us. That was also very, very effective, and it just reinforced how important mastering our stories are in all of this work.
The perspective taking, and one thing we do talk about is giving grace, right? You don't know the other person's values or the reason behind what they're doing, so being able to step back, and we incorporate the mindfulness of, stop, breathe, and think before you have a reaction. And that's all part of that understanding where someone else is coming from. And
Mm-hmm.
in these learnings that you had, are you seeing, because it's been some time now since you guys finished the pilot, are you seeing it's impacting your daily interactions at all, the learning that you had?
Yeah, the value piece, I think, is, I put them on a little sticky note on my computer, on
Mm-hmm.
the screen, so I can pull them up and look at them. I think the most impactful was in the VR with the homeless situation, and listening to the stories, listening to him talk about how people just ignore them, and This is a true story. When I go, I live in Rochester, but I teach in Ohio,
Mhm.
and so I go there about once a month. And my hotel is across the river, so I have to walk under a bridge and across the river, and it's a heavily populated area for the homeless. I was always just keep your head straight, don't look, and kind of not real proud to say this, but they're going to ask you for money, or they might be violent, and after I listened to that, I was like, they just want you to say hello to them and acknowledge that they exist.
Yeah.
And that changed my perspective, because so that after I did it, I went to campus. I did all of I think we had 12 people participate or something like that. And I did all of their headsets. And that next morning I was walking, and I actually had some food from the night before for dinner. And I acknowledged and asked if he wanted something to eat, and that changed that's changed my outlook, and my how I did things and how I still do.
Yeah.
And the story about seeing someone who could be homeless in Walmart, walking through Walmart,
Mhm.
not even thinking that they just want to use a bathroom and wash their face, and this is the only access
Yeah.
to running water that they have. So yeah, that was extremely impactful. And the unfortunate birth scenario, that's not my field,
Right.
but one of the people that participated is a women's health nurse practitioner.
Mhm.
And when she got done with that, she was she was moved. And I said, I didn't know the statistics on, black babies, white babies. And I said, like, how real is it? How realistic is this? And she said, oh, you have no idea. I was like, wow, okay. So yeah, it was highly effective. It left me wanting more VR
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
the program. I wanted more.
Mhm.
So I thought those were, very, very effective. And you want behavior change, and here's proof.
Right.
Um, so
Well,
um,
thank you for sharing those powerful stories. That is great to hear that as someone who's passionate about this work and the creator of this. But you brought up perspective taking and eye opening, and with virtual reality. When I began this work, I based it on the research that had come out of Stanford, and VR has been coined things like the empathy machine. And I love to talk to people about how it is the only place on earth where you can literally be someone else. So in our VR scenarios, you step in and you become that person that is unhoused, or that mother that's just given birth, and you're treated as that person is often in real life. And so that is a very unique perspective. But when you think about where virtual reality can go, and of course, we are focused on advancing health equity and applying this to nurses and nursing students, but using that powerful tool of being able to step into a different reality and it becomes completely real for you. And the other component is really focusing on rolling in this health equity in general, into every aspect of what's done with this. So when you talk about the sim labs and the mannequins, which I've talked to lots of universities, and one issue they have is there's no way to make that mannequin diverse in any way. It's static. And so I think with the virtual reality, being able to interact with patients from any kind of background, any kind of body type, or all those things, VR is so capable of that. Do you see that as an important aspect in your work for the type of content?
Definitely. And in fact, we wrote content about this in the American Nurses Foundation grant, that because we had to address equity and inclusion and accessibility. What you can do in VR, that, like you just said, that you can't necessarily do with a static mannequin or a high fidelity mannequin, or even with clinical. with clinical patients. Depending on where your hospital is, you may not have access to a diverse population. And in VR, you can design that. And so one of the things that we're going to look for in people that develop software is the ability to really create diverse characters, situations, and because you can do that with programming, which I think, as you said, you can't necessarily do in a sim lab.
Or even your clinical hours, because also the diversity of patients and cases
Exactly.
is the thing that, when depending on when your clinical hours are for these students, that dictates what kind of cases you're going to see.
Yep. Overall, it was good. I think some of the feedback I got about the VR was the same as mine. They wanted more. And for the most part, everyone thought it was effective. Our SimLab people can't get enough of this.
Mm-hmm.
They want it done yesterday.
But the really cool thing about virtual reality is that a single headset can train for thousands of hours. And so in many situations, you definitely don't need a headset per person, maybe enough for a certain class, like you would taking them into a sim lab, which is the great thing of partnering it with a sim lab, using the virtual reality to augment that. So yeah, I appreciate all that insight. So I think we're almost at the end of our time, but I'd love to have some last thoughts around two pieces. I know we focused a lot on the virtual reality, but the course itself, the online portion, any last minute parting thoughts on that?
I like that it's asynchronous.
Mm-hmm.
I like it doesn't take me an hour and a half to get through one module.
Mm-hmm.
The timing is good. It's quick.
So in summary, it is the future, and we will be moving that direction. So might as well get on board with the planning part now and setting up for success in implementing both in universities and in hospital systems. I think the same goes for both.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It was great talking with you today.
All right, take care.
You too.